and if we could enter it into the record, by what it is?
Sure, I will submit it for the record, and you'll be able to review it.
We'll get it. The chair now recognizes the gentlelady from Florida, Ms. Wasserman-Schultz.
Good job.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, we respectfully requested that you rescind Mr. Kennedy's invitation to appear here due to his repeated and very recent statements that spread dangerous anti-Semitic and anti-Asian conspiracy theories and attempted to move into executive session because House rules prohibit public testimony that degrades or defames people. His reckless rhetoric helped fuel anti-Semitic incidents, which for the record are at the highest level in the United States since 1970. They have nearly tripled in the last 6 years. Since you gave Mr. Kennedy a megaphone today, I want to give him a chance to correct his statements and prepare some of the harm that he's helped cause. Mr. Kennedy, you're well educated, so yes or no, please. Are you aware that for centuries Jews have been scapegoated and blamed for causing illnesses like Black Plague and more recently COVID?
I am. Those are known as blood libel, and they are one of the worst and most disturbing parts of human history.
Good. I'm glad to know that, of course, that you acknowledge that. Of course, it's true and well documented that this pernicious form of anti-Semitism led to centuries of discrimination, even horrific pogroms and massacres, and it still fuels deadly violence today. Yet last week, you floated a baseless conspiracy theory that the coronavirus was bioengineered to target Caucasians and Black people, but to spare Ashkenazi Jews and Chinese people. Mr. Kennedy, your bizarre, unproven claim echoes that same historic slander of labeling Jews and Chinese people as a race, and that Jews, and in this case Chinese people, somehow managed to avoid a deadly illness that targets other groups for death. You do see that, yes or no?
You're misstating.
No. I quoted what you said earlier, and it is directly what you said. So just ask me yes or no.
I was describing an NIH-funded study.
No, you didn't cite any.
I was describing an NIH-funded study by Cleveland Clinic scientists.
Reclaiming my time. You did not reference reclaiming my
published
time.
in USC Medical, which is one of...
The time is mine. I'm reclaiming it. Please ask the witness to stop talking.
You asked me a question.
Reclaiming.
Allow me to answer my question.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like about 10 seconds back.
The time belongs.
You are slandering me incorrectly. You're saying it's dishonest.
Time belongs to the gentlelady from
Florida.
Florida.
Defend myself.
Mr.
Time
Chairman,
belongs to the gentlelady from Florida.
I'd like 15 seconds back.
We will
Mr.
be happy to
Chairman.
give you that.
Thank you so much. You did not cite any study like you are citing here now during that conversation. You referenced no study at all. You simply labeled Jews and Chinese people as a race, and you also said that somehow they managed to avoid a deadly illness that targets other groups for death. You don't see that? You're trying to rewrite history here. A few months ago, Mr. Kennedy, you compared COVID public health policies to barbaric, murderous tactics of Nazi Germany, saying that Jewish people in Nazi Germany had more freedom than Americans facing COVID health restrictions. In hindsight, Mr. Kennedy, do you reject this absurd and deeply hurtful and harmful comparison, or do you still stand by it?
Congressman, what you are saying is a lie.
That you said it.
I did not. I never contained.
Okay.
I never, ever
Mr. Chairman, I'm
compared
happy to
COVID
enter into the record when Mr. Kennedy said that. I reclaim my time. In discussing COVID public health measures, you made light of the genocide against Jewish people by saying, and I quote, even Hitler's Germany, you could cross the Alps to Switzerland, you could hide in an attic like Anne Frank did. Mr. Kennedy, do you think it was easy for Jewish people to escape systematic slaughter of Nazis, yes or no?
Absolutely not.
Okay, good. Mr. Kennedy, do you think it was just as hard to wear a mask during COVID as it was to hide under floorboards or false walls so you weren't murdered or dragged to a concentration camp? Yes or no?
Excuse me?
That's a question, yes or no?
I didn't hear your question.
Okay. I said, do you think it was just as hard to wear a mask during COVID as it was to hide under floorboards or false walls so you weren't murdered or dragged to a concentration camp?
Of course not. That's ridiculous.
But that's a comparison that you made.
I did not make that comparison.
Were the measures taken to contain the spread and fatalities related to COVID in any way at all comparable to the murder of 6 million Jews, yes or no?
Absolutely not.
Okay. Let's be very clear here. There's no legitimate comparison to the Holocaust. It doesn't matter if you're talking about AI, vaccine mandates, or anything else. There is no comparison. And if this were a slip of the tongue, Mr. Kennedy, or a one-off comment, we would all move on. But there's a deeply disturbing pattern. In 2015, you apologized to all those, quote, whom I offended by my use of the word Holocaust to describe the autism epidemic. When discussing efforts to encourage others to get vaccinated for COVID-19, you said Nazis did that in the camps in World War II. They tested vaccines on gypsies and Jews. That was a quote. Like before, you apologized for invoking the Holocaust, saying, quote, to the extent my remarks caused hurt, I am truly and deeply sorry. These are not real statements of contrition or remorse. They are passive-aggressive non-apologies that blame the listener for reacting to the lie you just spread. I'm deeply saddened that this is a conversation we're having today. I have deep respect for what Mr. Kennedy's family did and still does to make life better for all Americans. But what you are doing now, Mr. Kennedy, and the forces you aligned yourself are reckless, dangerous, and disturbing by echoing dangerous claims such as, quote, Jews don't really suffer as much as we do, which you said. Your rhetoric creates a climate of mistrust, antagonism, and even hatred or violence against Jewish people. My own children have been the targets of brutal anti-Semitism on social media. You fan those flames and jeopardize their safety. You've marginalized other groups too, like Asian Americans and the LGBTQ+ community. And worse, you don't seem to care or brush it all off to misquotes and misunderstanding. Frankly, it's disgusting. Thank you for your indulgence, Mr. Chairman. I yield back the balance of my time.
Mr. Chairman, I have unanimous consent
The
request.
gentleman from Kentucky is recognized for UC.
I ask unanimous consent to introduce into the record a study that Mr. Kennedy just referenced, new insights into genetic susceptibility of COVID-19. The main body said that they investigated genetic susceptibility to COVID-19 by examining DNA polymorphism in ACE2 and TMPRSS2. Those are receptors for COVID in 81,000 human genomes, and they found unique genetic susceptibility across different populations. I have another document that I would like to ask unanimous consent
Without objection.
to submit, and this is from the FDA review of efficacy and safety of Pfizer-BioNTech COVID-19 vaccine. This is dated December 10th, 2020, and it shows that the Pfizer trial and the USDA broke down the effectiveness of the vaccine into 7 different racial categories because this was also a concern of theirs, and it would frankly be delinquent not to study the effects across the
But
different
Mr.
races.
Kennedy said it was bioengineered
Without
to
objection.
target
Time
blacks
belongs
and
to
Caucasians.
the gentleman from Utah
And
is
spare
recognized for 5
whites,
minutes.
and spare Ashkenazi Jews and Chinese people. That is different
Time
than any of
belongs
those
to the
studies.
gentleman
Like
from
that.
Utah.
Mr. Chairman, I have unanimous.
Wow. Disgusting, she called him. Deplorable. Unreal. But that's Debbie Wasserman Schultz. And the same Debbie Wasserman Schultz, I would like to remind everybody, who was caught rigging the 2016 primaries in Hillary Clinton's favor and against Bernie Sanders. Now, that's a very clear signal, what she just did and what she did throughout that hearing the other day, along with all of the other powerful Democrats on that panel. They made it clear that they're going to do it again. They're going to Bernie this guy so hard.
Yep.
They're just basically putting it out there, just letting you know, Mr. Kennedy, we're not going to let you win a single primary in this party. We don't want you. We don't want you in our party. We don't like you, but we like the rest of your family. You know, the rest of your family, they're great. And you're a disgrace to your father and to your uncle. They literally went there. That's low. That's really low.
Well, and somebody earlier in the chat said the reason he couldn't run as a Republican is because the GOP hardliners wouldn't support him. And the only reason the hardliners wouldn't support him is because of his Kennedy name.
Perhaps. And also, you know, he is pro-choice. I think a lot of hardliner or fundamentalist Christian Republicans would vote against him just on that issue alone.
Yeah.
You know,
we need to start or stop voting on party lines.
I agree.
What was her name the last Senate election? Geez, and I know her. I should remember it. But they excluded her from the debates.
Diane Sayre?
Diane Sayre.
From New York. Yeah. She, independent
Same
candidate.
thing.
She was running for Chucky Schumer's Senate seat, and they did everything they could to screw her at the debates, to keep her off the ballot. And there's already a movement out there, and I've seen it from activist groups that call themselves progressive left, and they're trying to get Kennedy off the ballot in several states, just deny him ballot access. It's crazy.
Yeah. Free and fair elections, democracy. That's what they call it anyway.
Did you see that one guy during the vote to move to executive session or not. You know, Debbie Wasserman Schultz early in the hearing was trying to adjourn behind closed doors. They said, we're not censoring Kennedy. We just don't want the American people to hear him
To
on
hear him,
television. We want to do this behind closed doors in executive session. So they took a vote. That motion failed. But there was a guy, Representative Connolly, and when it was his turn to vote, he said no to the Soviet Politburo. I was like,
Yeah.
what? What did you just say?
Yeah. Hey, gee, come on out of the 80s.
Wow. It's just, I posted that on Twitter and it went viral. Everyone had the same reaction. What are you even talking about, bro? And you know, I wonder, Kevin, how some of your older comrades over there in Russia and Ukraine and the old Soviet states feel if they remember the Soviet Union. When they see that kind of stuff going on in the United States, I wonder how it makes them feel.
You know, people here don't pay a lot of attention to what's going on in the United States because they figured out a few years ago that things are so screwed up that it just isn't worth their time to listen to.
I understand.
You know,
Feel the same way myself sometimes.
Yeah. The Soviet Union, that whole thing that you guys hear about, Putin wants the Soviet Union back and
Not true.
Russians do. I know many, many Russians pine for the days of the Soviet Union. They will admit things were not perfect, but everybody worked, everybody had a place to live, and, you know, mostly people ate. You know, there were mistakes in allocating, you know, what they were going to do over the next 5 years. And everybody makes those mistakes. But nobody is really looking for the Soviet Union to be back.
Yeah, that's what I hear. And it's good to hear you confirm that. And I know that, you know, they love to say that Putin's trying to bring back the Soviet Union. He most certainly is not. He's made it clear in speech after speech after speech that he doesn't want to return to the Soviet Union. And what I see from my perspective across the ocean, I see that Putin has been trying to find that balance, that hybrid sort of between capitalism and communism, where you take the best of both and you come up with an economic model that works for Russia. And it seems to be working pretty darn well for Russia.
You know, the whole he wants the Soviet Union back was the same thing they were doing in this hearing. They were twisting his words. You know, his actual words were that the mistake was how the Soviet Union was dissolved. You know, and it was. It left many people outside of their own countries, stuck in other countries. So it was a mistake how it was done. But
I saw a good question there from Baron Saturday in your chat. He said there's a Kennedy in the Republican Party. Yes, there is. No relation, I guess. You are correct. He's not a relation, but his name is John Kennedy. It's a little confusing to people. Senator John Kennedy of Louisiana is no relation to the Kennedy family, even though he shares the name of our late president.
Yeah. So we have a couple of other questions here. Imugi said, why isn't follow the money the standard procedure for journalism analysis?
Great question.
You know, for independent journalists like Lori, it is follow the money. You know, and it's what people really need to do when they're looking into things. But how do you feel about the Western mainstream media, Lori? Do they follow the money?
In terms of our reporting on stories, you mean, to get to the bottom of something? I mean, that's the golden rule of journalism that we learned from Woodward and Bernstein. My generation grew up going by that maxim. You know, I've been in journalism for 35 years. I've spent most of those years in corporate media, mostly radio and print. So We used to follow the money. That's how we were trained to do it. That's how all the great journalists do it, because that's where you're going to find the heart of the story, the heart of the matter. These days, no, I must say that there's a lack of curiosity among most journalists in corporate media about that. They've become merely stenographers for power, mouthpieces for the government, instead of asking tough questions of the government and of corporations. Those corporations are their corporate sponsors, and therein lies the rub. How are you supposed to get honest reporting on, say, certain injections that everyone was mandated to take? You really think you're going to get that from a network that's sponsored by Pfizer? Come on.
Yeah. So this is more of a comment, but I don't disagree. Have a standing peaceful standing military. There needs to be revolution in America. I hate to wish that on anybody.
Exactly.
Because I can tell you, living where I do, it makes life interesting, but it isn't any fun.
Well, yeah. I mean, as a historian, I can tell you that we don't want to repeat the Civil War. I see a lot of my fellow Americans getting ready. They really want to take on the other side. Either they want to take on the other side, fight the liberals, or the liberals want to fight the QAnon people or the MAGA people. So that would be our Civil War. But then there's also a movement of Americans who want to take on the government. They want another revolution. They want another 1776. They want to overthrow everybody and burn the damn thing down.
You got to be careful
is a good outcome.
Yeah, you have to be careful of those Texans.
That's right, darling. That's right.
And I'm giving Lori a hard time on that because she is one.
That's right. I grew up around that. I'm a friend of the militias. I'm a strong, advocate of the Second Amendment, proud Texan. And, our motto down in Texas is come and take it. If the government wants our guns, come and take them. We'll give you a fight. So, and, Texas does have a movement to secede from the Union. And that movement has been growing exponentially year by year as Texans continue to fight with the federal government. Right now, we're having a showdown over the southern border with the White House and with the federal government, who's just letting that border sit wide open. And Governor Abbott down in Texas is trying his best to protect it with what forces he has, but he's not getting any help from the federal government in securing the border. So there's a showdown brewing. There's trouble a brewing, as we say in the United States. And I'm afraid if we don't elect Robert Kennedy next year, then the next 4 to 8 years could be our worst nightmare. And I'm not saying that to fearmonger. That's, I'm not trying to scare people into voting for Kennedy. I'm just saying we are on a very dangerous path. We've been on this path and kept growing that divide deeper and deeper and wider. And there's so much hate on all sides towards each other, towards the government, towards the media, that the whole thing could get real ugly real quick. And you have no idea how quickly this could escalate. I'm afraid that Biden is so divisive, and honestly, so is Trump, that's just putting fuel on a fire that could very quickly rage out of control. And that is why I'm so committed to getting Kennedy elected. I think he's the only one who can cool the temperature, bring back some civil discourse, if the other side will cooperate. Otherwise, he's just talking to himself. We saw that hearing this week. There was no cooperation from his own side, Kevin.
And I'll be honest, he's saying the right things. His viewpoints of what he wants to do are the right things. My concern with any candidate in this day and age in the United States is that military-industrial complex. They need to clean house there. Putin made this statement, it was, I don't know, 3-4 elections ago. Somebody asked him how he felt about, and I don't remember who it was that was running at the time, being president. And his statement was, all American politicians say what they're going to do in office. Many of them say the right things, but the minute they get elected, men in dark suits come in and tell them what they are and what they are not going to do. And this is my fear for him, as it will be a battle for him 100% of the time if he's elected.
Absolutely. I mean, I believe that Donald Trump went in with good intentions. I believe that he truly wanted to drain the swamp. I voted for Donald Trump in 2016. He lost my support for a number of reasons. Chief among them, of course, you know, I'm a JFK historian, and I've been fighting to get those JFK files out of the government archives that have been kept secret for 60 years. And that came up on Trump's watch. The JFK Records Act expired in 2017. It was one of his first acts as president. And it was his job under the law to declassify and release everything, every last document. And he said he was going to do it. Remember, he put out a tweet saying, I'm going to release all the JFK files. And then the next day, he got a visit from the FBI and the CIA director, Mike Pompeo. They prevailed upon him one way or another. I don't know what they said. I don't know if any threats were made or if it was all done in a very subtle kind of way. But they let him know who the boss was. And sure enough, the next day, he put out another tweet saying, actually, I'm not going to release everything. I'm going to release a few files, but not everything. And I'll revisit this in 2018.
Yeah.
Then he kicked the can down the road to Biden. Biden has now kicked the can down the road 3 times. And, you know, several Kennedy historians that I'm associated with, the Mary Farrell Foundation, are currently suing Joe Biden and this administration for those JFK files. We're not going to let them get away with this. But you know what they're going to do, Kevin? They're going to drag this out. They're going to stall and try to keep this from ever going to court. President Biden, back on the 4th of July, basically, you know, put out an executive order, a declaration saying that, oh, well, JFK Records Act is expired, so I don't have to comply with it. So there. And we're like, nope, we're going to court. We're going to court. We're going to fight you. But I doubt that that case will be resolved because the government will delay before the next election. And again, that's another reason why I'm supporting RFK. He has pledged to release all of the files on day 1 of his administration. Of course he will.
It's his family, you know, it's his family's name. So
that's right. That's right.
Okay.
So you want to take another look at another clip, or have we got time?
I have time. If you have time, you're the one who's up in the middle of the night.
Middle of the night. Hey, I'm all coffeeed up and wide awake. So you want to watch some more?
Sure.
Okay. Let's see. Let me bring this screen up for you. And I know this is like torture, but I think it's really important, especially for the folks over there watching in Russia. If you hadn't seen what happened this week in our Congress, it's quite a shit show.
I thank the gentleman from Texas. Mr. Kennedy's and others here are claiming that they've been censored, but they actually have a huge megaphone. The rules that my colleague tried to bring up are rules that the Republicans made at the beginning of this Congress. They did not allow the Democrats to be part of that. And one of those rules was that if information or testimony might potentially defame an individual, that we would go in executive session. No one was trying to stop him from testifying, but not to give him the megaphone that this group has allowed him to have. I also note, in terms of censorship, that the far-right media has already issued articles about me playing the race card. The race card is something that's often used against Black people for bringing up when they see race, hatred, being propagated against them. And it's a means to try and keep us quiet and keep us in our place. Oh, you're playing the race card by bringing up what is obvious in our lives, what is obviously happening, race. And so you can keep saying I'm race baiting and try and censor me, but I'm going to continue to tell the truth. I want to be abundantly clear about what else is happening in this room. The MAGA Republicans are trying to scare social media companies into not taking down blatantly false information in the lead up to our 2024 presidential election. Chair Jordan knows, as we do, that when conspiracy theories succeed, so does Donald Trump. Russia interfered in our 2016 election, they attempted in our 2020, and they're going to try to interfere in the 2024 presidential election. We note that Russian trolls sought to suppress the black vote by unleashing a torrent of social media posts designed to stoke racial tensions and spread incorrect voting information. In 2021, our national intelligence agencies found that proactive information sharing between the government and social media companies facilitated the expeditious review and, in many cases, removal of social media accounts covertly operated by Russia and Iran. Ms. Wiley, if the government is not able to proactively share information with social media companies in 2024, what is likely to have be the ramifications? And I'd ask that you make your answer as succinct as possible because there's a lot of information I need.
I will just quote one thing. Mr. Prigozhin, who's been in the news of late, actually said explicitly and openly that they would continue to try to spread mis and disinformation into the United States and interfere with our elections.
Thank you. They know that Russian interference, that is, the MAGA Republicans know that Trump benefits when Russia interferes. The super PAC that supports, the same super PAC that supports Mr. Kennedy and has raised significant funds on his behalf is run by a man named Jason Bowles. Here's Jason Bowles' Twitter profile, as you can see up on the screen. Jason Bowles isn't just a MAGA supporter, he also ran the super PAC for MAGA Republicans Marjorie Taylor Greene, Lauren Boebert, George Santos, and in 2022, he supported Herschel Walker. So the person behind Mr. Kennedy's super PAC is an individual who personally and professionally wants the Republican Party to succeed. Yet, Mr. Kennedy is running as a Democrat. Ms. Wiley, will it benefit Mr. Kennedy as well as the other individuals that are supported by the super PAC if social media companies are less able to detect and, if needed, if they determine that it's needed, to remove Russian covert information designed to suppress votes in this country?
It is possible.
Thank you. I yield back.
Can I yield the remainder of the time?
Gentlelady yields back. I now recognize Mr. Stubbe from Florida for his 5 minutes.
Mr. Kennedy, do you want to respond to that? Can you do that quickly?
Yeah, I've never heard of Mr. Bowles, and I've never heard of that super PAC. This is typical of the accusations against me at this hearing. They are baseless. Every single one have been subjected to a parade of defamations. If I believe those things about myself, I wouldn't want to hear me either. I'd want to gag me and lock me in a room somewhere. But none of those are true, and they were all of this parade of accusations and defamations were made against me in a way that was calculated to make sure that I could not respond to any of them. Every one of them I'd like to respond to, but I was not allowed to.
Yeah, I wanted to ask your thoughts on that one, Kevin, that particular bit, because it specifically regards Russia, Prigozhin's efforts supposedly to influence our elections. And what are your thoughts on that?
You know, Prigozhin is a big mouth businessman who is not taken seriously in his own country. So, you know, you can't go based on anything he says. Now, he's parroting what I think Medvedev actually said that at one point. And he was, you know, they made a big deal about it in the Western media. Yes, we have been interfering in the elections and we're going to continue doing so. But he was being sarcastic in the context of being accused when it had already been proven that it wasn't true. So Prigozhin isn't taken seriously in Russia, particularly after his latest antics. So choosy heretics, yeah, I've been getting some sun. So
You do look like you've got a nice tan going there in the Crimea sun.
yeah, it's sunny year round here. So
Yeah, except
was
when the
down at-
missiles are flying. For goodness sake,
Well,
I hope things quiet down for you. Have the attacks stopped for the day?
yeah, I haven't
For
heard
now?
anything today.
Good.
Yesterday we had, or day before yesterday, daytime strikes too, which is unusual.
That is unusual.
Russia usually fires between 1 and 3 in the morning because you can't see the incoming missiles. Harder to track them. So
Yeah, those are usually nighttime operations. Very surprised to hear that's going on in the daytime. Were those defensive? I would presume so.
on our
Or
part,
you're talking about the Ukrainian strikes were daytime strikes on you?
oh no, the Ukrainian ones, one was 3 in the morning. The
Kirk
two on
Bridge.
the old ammo depots were daytime strikes,
Hmm.
but this is the first time Russia has done a daytime strike on the
Interesting.
Odessa port. So
Very interesting. They've been hitting
So-
Odessa hard, really hard.
yeah, they're getting serious. So let's see if we got any other questions here before we wrap up.
Anybody have any Kennedy questions for me? Any questions about Mr. Kennedy? Happy to answer. If you do, drop a comment.
Yeah.
I hope he was
So-
understood. You know, I mean, at least he finally had his chance to speak. And they tried and tried and tried to take his microphone away, to turn off the television cameras, to get him behind closed doors to testify in executive session. And I have to thank the Republicans on that committee, particularly Representatives Massey, Representatives Johnson of Louisiana, and Jim Jordan, the chair. I thought Jordan ran his committee in a very fair manner, and he did make sure that Bobby got his time and got to speak his truth. And I just hope that the American people out there could see through the lies, the smears, the garbage that they threw at him, and that they, I actually think, Kevin, that he won a lot of votes, which is that's what they were really worried about. Don't you think?
Right.
When they were talking
Yeah.
about, oh, Russia's going to try and influence our next election. What are we going to do? I think if you translate that, what they're really saying is, no, we're scared that Kennedy's winning a lot of votes here, and we're going to blame the Russians if he wins. You know, they're already they're laying the groundwork for another Trump-Russia debacle, don't you think?
Well, everything that happens in the United States is Russia's fault. So
Right.
Imugi wants to know why Mr. Kennedy does not signal more towards the mainstream left. I actually think he does a lot, but you have thoughts?
I think he's just too honest, Kevin, to claim positions that he does not sincerely believe. That's why he has not budged on the Israel-Palestine issue. You know, the fact that he supports Israel so strongly has alienated many voters on the left, on the progressive left, who support Palestine, and a lot of Democrats. But this is what he truly, sincerely believes, whether he's right or whether he's wrong. I personally disagree with him on that issue, but I'm not going to let that change my support for him, because I know that it is a sincerely held belief that he has. And I also know that Kennedy is persuadable. Before we go, I'll tell you a personal story. I've known him since 2007. I was actually part of a Draft Kennedy movement in 2007. After 8 years of Bush, I wanted him to run and save America even then. It was not the right time for Bobby then. He still had young children, and he wanted to be a dad. He wanted to be there for his kids. If you consider how he lost his father, And you consider that he came from a family of 11 kids. They all grew up without their dad, and it took a tremendous and often deadly toll on his siblings. Many of them fell into drug abuse, bad habits. He lost a brother to a drug overdose, David.
Yeah.
It's all because they grew up without a dad. So he was not about to go into politics and risk being killed, because he is, after all, a Kennedy. And as he himself said, all the way back in 1977, when someone asked him if he was scared to run for office someday because they might kill him, he said assassination is an occupational hazard in politics. So he knows the stakes. He knows the stakes, and he's not afraid. He just had to wait for the right time when his kids were grown, when his wife supported him. His wife, Cheryl, does support him, but boy, is she under attack now. Now, they're trying to sick his own family on him. They've come at him with his sister Carrie, with Joe Kennedy III. They've all issued these denouncements of him this past week. And Jack Schlossberg, President Kennedy's grandson, Caroline Kennedy's son, just put out a statement yesterday condemning and denouncing Bobby. And that's very sad to see that happening.
It's not only sad, but it has to make you wonder what's behind it. I'd like to see some of those bank accounts.
Indeed. So would I.
And it's not just his father, his uncle. Mm-hmm. He has considerable experience with assassinations in his family.
Unfortunately, he does.
Yeah.
And he knows those are the risks, folks, and he's willing to put his life on the line for his country, for you, for me. He's willing to take a bullet for us. Let me repeat that. He's willing to take a bullet for us.
So, if anybody wants to help Lori in supporting RFK Jr., she has a message pinned to her Twitter account. Oh, there's my camera. Over there under her, not under me.
I'm bad at this too. There it is.
You can go there, and she has what you can do to help her to help Robert F. Kennedy Jr.
You can sign up to join my team of volunteers if you'd like to work with me. We're going to put this man on our shoulders, and we're going to carry him to the White House in 2024. Just go to kennedy24.com/Lori Spencer, and you can join my team. You can donate. You can buy some merchandise. So if you're over there in Russia, you can walk around with a Kennedy T-shirt or ball cap and get some interesting comments.
I would. Unfortunately, you can't send that stuff here.
Oh, that's right. You cannot purchase it if you're not in the United States. But hint, you can buy it on Amazon or other places. You don't have to buy it directly from the campaign. I didn't say that.
Yeah,
you can.
They don't ship it here either. No postal service, nothing.
Really?
No postal, no DHL, no FedEx, no UPS. They all stopped shipping here. So you cannot even send a letter to Russia.
Really? I didn't know that. Is that the sanctions? Or just virtue signaling?
Virtue signaling mostly.
I see.
Corporate postal service isn't sanctioning anybody. They just refuse to deliver here.
Wow. So the United States Postal Service won't do it either.
Yep.
Interesting.
There are there's a couple of private couriers that if you do want stuff and you're willing to pay big money for it, you can get the stuff over here. So it costs about $60 to ship a letter over here.
A letter?
Yeah.
Oh my God. Well, it's a good thing we have email, huh?
Yeah.
I can talk to you in real time. We don't have to ship packages back and forth, thankfully. Shipping packages is so 20th century anyway, right? We do it all virtually.
Unless you want a cup or something, yeah.
Right? So I can't send you a Kennedy T-shirt, huh?
Can't send me a Kennedy T-shirt either.
Dang.
I'll have to order it from China where they're probably made.
As a matter of fact, they are. I don't know about the official Kennedy merchandise, but I'll tell you, I just bought a big Kennedy 24 flag. The campaign isn't offering them, so I bought it off of Amazon. And sure enough, it was made in China and shipped from China.
Of course.
And by the
Of
way,
course.
it's very well made, excellent quality, nice fabric. It's not cheap, even though I bought it super, super cheap, but it's actually a very well made product and I'm happy with it. And it's not even official merchandise. But, once again, the Chinese are outdoing us. And, Kennedy wants to change that too. He's not a hawk on China. He doesn't want to go to war with China. But he does want to have real trade competition with China and get the United States back in the game of producing our own stuff. And I'm all for that. We stopped making our own stuff a long time ago, and we're relying way too much on other countries like China. But we need to be doing that. So I foresee a friendly and healthy competition with China, not the kind of war footing that we're on with the Biden administration. And honestly, Trump is starting to take a troubling turn against China and North Korea.
Again.
Yeah. I don't like to hear that kind of talk from Trump. I want to go back to the days when he was meeting Kim Jong-un over there at the demilitarized zone for a handshake. I don't want to see us go back to the days of more Cold War rhetoric. And it disturbs me very much when I hear Trump say things like he did a couple of weeks back, where he's like, when I'm president, I'm going to restrict immigration from all communist countries. No commies allowed in the United States. That's sounding pretty McCarthyite to me. I don't like the sound of it. You don't have to be a communist to think that that's wrong. I'm no communist. I'm a libertarian. But I don't want to go back in time to the Cold War, and I see us backpedaling. We're going that way. And it seems that Trump will take us there, and so will Joe Biden.
We're already there.
We're there. So. We are. So I feel like the remedy is Kennedy. It's the only way, our only hope at this point for peace with the Russians who don't want to hurt us. The Chinese, they're not going to invade us. They don't want a war with us. North Korea, they don't want a war with us. They just want us to leave them alone and get our military bases the hell out of their sphere. Kennedy's promised to close all of our military bases too.
Stay the heck out of Taiwan.
Right.
We believe in one China, but we're going to sell them a bunch of weapons to attack China with.
There you go. That's the doublespeak. It's that Orwellian doublespeak that we keep getting from the Biden administration, from our government. Yeah. Just like they said, we're not trying to censor Kennedy at the hearing when they were clearly trying to censor it.
Yeah. We're not censoring him. No, we're not censoring him.
Turn his mic off.
Yeah.
We're not trying to censor you. What kind of gaslighting is that, really?
Yeah.
I'm ashamed. At times like these, Kevin, I'm almost ashamed to be an American. And I didn't have much hope for 2024 until this April when Kennedy got in the race. It looked to me like it was going to be Trump versus Biden again, a rematch, the sequel to 2020. I wasn't looking forward to that. I didn't see how I could support either one. And I didn't have a candidate that I could support. And then my old friend Bobby decided, oh, what the hell, I'll run. So I'm so glad he did. I'm so glad he's in this race.
I wish him luck, and I wish you luck in getting him elected.
Thanks. I'm going to need it.
Yeah. And anything we can do to help you get the word out, I'm here for you. So
thank you. I have a little good news before I go. After Kennedy's testimony, the campaign raised $5 million in donations in a single day. I think that's a sign. Yes.
That's a good sign.
Isn't that great?
Yeah.
In one day, the American people stepped up and they opened their pocketbooks and they said, go get Joe Biden.
Yeah.
Win.
Cool.
Go get him. We want you to win. So when I see those donations pouring in like that after that contentious hearing, that tells me that the American people are on our side.
Yeah.
Most of
And
them.
I would encourage Peter to vote for him in the next election, but unfortunately, mail ballots don't work here.
Oh, yeah. Well, there you go. Yeah, if you're a citizen over there in Russia, you should be able to vote absentee. But if the mail service won't deliver the ballot, how does that work?
Until last year, you could go to the U.S. Embassy in Moscow and vote.
Right?
But the U.S. Embassy doesn't allow people in anymore, only for emergency passport renewals. So if you want to do anything as an American in Russia, you have to fly to Poland.
You're kidding. Really?
No.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing. That's amazing. So you really don't even know if you can vote in the next election?
Yeah, unless I'm willing to spend the money to fly to Poland and go to the embassy there. And of course, those of us living in Russia are not their best friends.
Well, of course. That would be a perilous journey to make, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
That's taking a risk potentially with your life just to vote.
Well, it's not even a risk for life. It's that the embassy staff in Poland is not friendly to those who live in Russia.
Mm-hmm.
They do not like to help. In fact, the embassy staff in Russia is not helpful to anybody. So you can contact them and they will tell you it's not our problem.
I thought that we closed our embassy in Moscow, so it's still open, but not really open. Like if you need help, they're not going to help you unless it's an emergency, huh?
Correct. You can make an appointment to go renew a passport if it affects your legal stay in Russia.
That's it. That's literally all you can do. Incredible, man. That's incredible. All the more reason that we have to negotiate a peace as soon as possible and get back on a good foot, if it's not too late, between our two countries. We need that.
Yeah. Peter,
just so you can vote.
Yeah.
Just so you can vote, brother. I can't believe that you are literally being denied the right to vote as an American citizen. But you are, in a roundabout way. They're going to say they're not denying you the right to vote, just like they're not censoring Kennedy. And we didn't blow up the Nord Stream pipeline. But yeah, they're
it's the same as renewing a passport. They really want you to go back to the United States to renew it. And then because you have that Russian visa stamp in it, they're sitting on people's passports. So I do recommend people that are coming to Russia, when you apply for your passport, tell them you're going to Eastern Europe. It's not a lie. Do not tell them you're going to Russia. I know people who applied as a family, and one family had one of their sons, they put his social security number in wrong. Could have been a mistake. The second issue they had was the same son had his address inputted incorrectly on the same application. And these were things that were checked at the post office when they applied to make sure they were correct. But when they got to Washington, things...
Hello there. I have a cat that just jumped up here. If you saw something black, it's a cat tail.
Yep, I saw the tail.
That's my kitty. Hello. He wants to be on TV. This is Jack. Guess who I named him after? President Kennedy. And his wife is named Jackie. And they have twin offspring, a boy and a girl, John and Caroline.
Cool.
They're the Kennedy cats.
Yeah, it's a cat
I'm
sound.
that kind of cat lady. I name my cats after the Kennedys.
Yeah.
If you go to a wide shot, you can have a good look at him. He's sitting here going, hey, notice me. Hello, world. I want the people of Russia to see me.
Yeah.
Show everybody
Let's find the wide shot one. There we go. That's...
Turn the camera down a little so you can see this handsome fella. Aren't you a handsome fella? Oh yeah, I know the Russian people love their cats, and he's a good boy. You can't have him; he's mine. He's all mine. That's my boy. Don't get jealous.
Oh, Ilya. Hello, Ilya. This is my friend Ilya here on the screen right now.
Hello. Hello. Well, Kev, I've enjoyed this. It's always such a pleasure to talk with you, my friend. And we will see you very soon on Maverick News. Have you back soon.
I will. Just ping me anytime. You know I'm here. So.
Well, there's always news in Crimea these days, so we need you. Please stay safe.
Yeah. All right.
You and your
Thank
family,
you.
all my best to you.
It's been our honor to have you, Lori. Bye.
Thank you.